some travel for wine club, the wine club in other cities, so.
I know, that's great. It seems so
Just finished construction.
So welcome.
You are welcome to RRretweetOct. This is a fairly new building, built just in time for harvest last year. So we moved in exactly a year ago, perhaps today, I'm not sure about that.
October 4th.
Anniversary date. And we've been making wine since 1995 in the valley. Starting out of the little horse barn behind our house that we converted into a winery. There's a picture of it here from the article in the Spectator many years ago. And we've kind of evolved both our size and our style a little bit, and grown up enough to have our own place finally. So Scott's been the winemaker from the beginning, founder and winemaker.
And Annie does everything else.
Well, not everything else. We now have Tom and we have Kathy.
Production, myself and some assistants were busily readying the production floor underneath this level. Make about 6,500 cases of wine a year, and Annie and Kathy and Thomas distribute it. So yeah, the sheep barn where we started production 17 years ago is like 2 miles from here. So we've come full circle in the last 17 years. And thanks for coming. We're going to have some wonderful foods that were conceived of with a glass or two of these wines in front of Mr. Scott Dolich. Scott?
Hello, hi. Just making snacks to go along with the wines today. So I'll spiel a little bit as I bring stuff out. I'm not a very didactic wine pairing person, so we're going to pair up with 4 wines, and as Scott said, they gave me 4 wines to pair up with, and we've got a bunch of snacks at the Bent Brick that are designed to be super alcohol friendly, wine friendly in particular. So I'll bring out 2 snacks and we'll pair them with 2 wines, and then we can talk about them for a little while, and then I'll bring out 2 more snacks and we'll do the same thing.
Can we go ahead and start an introduction? That's
Who's who in this food?
I'm Jennifer Heidel. I write a website called Dan's Blender that covers food and beverage industry news and food and wine events and great fun retweets like this.
I'm Carrie Dieter, and freelance on food, wine, and agriculture.
Hi, I'm Wayne Oppenheimer, and I do WineupTV.com, and I have a wine shop downtown and a wine tour business.
Kathleen Bauer, I do the same thing as Carrie, and have a blog called Good Stuff on Wines.
I'm Tamara Belgard. I have a wine blog called Sip With Me. I do freelance writing for brand publications as well, and do some winery marketing.
Allison Jones, I'm with Portland Monthly. I write about wine and food and tasty things.
Jim Gullo. I do the OregonWine.com website and a lot of freelance writing.
I'm Don Ross. I'm with Yelp.com in Portland, and I like to eat, drink, and talk about it.
I'm Tom Champagne. I work with RRretweetOct, and I do sales and market development, and I'm a big social media fan. I follow all of you.
Well, and I'm Cheryl from 105.1 The Buzz. We do a lot of food and wine events for listeners, and I like to blog about them and Facebook about them, post pretty pictures of them, and so that's what I'm doing.
I'm Mark Newman, and I work with Wayne, make all his behind-the-scenes stuff happen.
He makes me look as good as he can. I don't give him much to work with, but he does his best.
Shall we see?
Yeah.
There's no assigned seating, so just wherever you're comfortable.
I'll grab some wine.
This is one of those opportunities where bring out your phones, take some photos, do it in real time, tweet, Twitter, whatever, Facebook, whatever you want to do. And thank you.
I'm going to come around the core. We're going to start one off with 2 wines. I've got the 2009. That'll be in front of you on your left. And the 2010 new release of Shea Vineyard will be on your right.
Allison, I'm not sure.
It's Alice Wines, which is the same as Alice Wine Jones.
Well, that's cool.
It's
Is it recently?
So the two wines we're pouring now are kind of from the two different sides of what Raptor Ridge makes.
Okay.
One is a cuvee and one is a vineyard designate. At times we feel like we're making wines for two audiences, our direct consumers and our distributors. And the first one that Tom is pouring is our Willamette Valley Pinot. It's just designed to be our basic Oregon Pinot, super easy to drink and approachable upon release. We make sure that we're selecting vineyards and selecting from barrels that are pleasing to the palate early on, have the crowd-pleasing flavors and aromas you would expect from Oregon Pinot, and don't have a lot of complexity to them so that it doesn't require a lot of age. The polar opposite is our reserve that you'll taste later that does require time in the bottle. And then our vineyard designates, which we'll be pouring that shade next, are emblematic of what we find from that vineyard from vintage to vintage. Scott, do you want to talk a little bit about shade while that's being poured?
Sure. You're among the first to taste this. We haven't released it yet, although I think it's going out in October this month. I've been working with Dick Shea and Shea Vineyard since '96, so it's a long relationship. And this particular block, for those of you who follow Shea Vineyard, is block 11. So it's all one clone. Actually, I lie. It's mostly clone 115. I have a little flag edge of the block that has like three rows of 777. And I always keep them separate. You know, I keep all the clones separate, all the blocks separate, ferment them separately, choose an array of barrels in response to the vintage. In 2010, we did not use a lot of new oak because it was a delicate, articulate vintage. I didn't want to shout at it with a bunch of new oak, so it was a modest touch of new French oak. And then we'll go through after ML and choose the barrels that speak the signature of Shea Vineyard and select those barrels, blend them together early in the élevage, and return them to barrel to marry up. So this wine has been together since really around March of this year. Just bottled 6 weeks ago, and the last time I tasted it was when I had it all stabilized and ready for bottling. And then we just opened the bottle yesterday, and so I hope you'll like it. I think it's really emblematic of the 2010 Oregon vintage. For me, I'm using words like lithe and articulate, nimble. It's not a light wine. It's lighter in color, certainly, but especially when these 2010 Oregon Pinots get some bottle age, there's so many interesting aromatics and textures going on in them. And so as Annie was saying, this is our one of our bookends, one of our vineyard designate programs. We do several vineyard designates. Shea is really the one that we put in national distribution, and all the others are available here at the winery, like Meredith Mitchell, and Stony Mountain, Grand Moraine, Harbinger. So I feel in a sense like we're running two different wineries here. We've got like a small boutique winery that's doing vineyard designates that serve really only to our wine club or the people that come by the wine tasting room. And then the other winery that I'm running here is making cuvées that are 2,000, 2,500 cases of wine. In the wine world, not huge, but for an Oregon winery, that's a pretty good offering. And that's what the 2009 Willamette Valley was I think we made 2,300 cases, or about 2,000 cases of this. And distributed in now 26 states and the Virgin Islands. So that's what keeps Annie busy.
26 days?
Yeah. Is that right, Annie? 26 states that you're distributing?
It's good that it's in the Virgin Islands, because now you have an excuse to go there and make sure it's actually right all off.
Make sure they're pouring right.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
November, yeah.
The second, please. On left is the 09 Willamette Valley, and on your right is the 2010 Shea.
Shea was just about 6 weeks ago.
Correct.
What I love about the 09s is it's so approachable, drinking so well right out of the bottle.
Yeah. They really are, as a vintage, and ours are no exception, they're advanced, I think. They leapfrog the 08s, which are so tightly wrapped and packed.
Sure.
I wish the wine industry was such that you could release your 09s and sit on your 08s and then come back, but it doesn't work that way.
Can't do it.
I don't think, yeah.
And the 07s, even extra year and a half in the bottle, they're drinking great.
And the ground rules are, we're not going to get offended by anything they do here, so. Make yourself at home.
What happens to Raptor Ridge?
Not at an event like this. Everything is being tweeted.
Yeah, and Mark gonna catch it all. He's good.
Perfect timing too, when we had conceived of doing this with you this afternoon. I was worried, oh man, we're going to be in the thick of harvest. So harvest is delayed enough that I can just kind of chill out with you guys today, and then we start on Thursday.
On this Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah, up here?
We're going to take some fruit from our young vines here that I think is ready, and also I'm making Tempranillo that's coming up from Southern Oregon. We've done that from time to time, but great producer, Folan. I don't know if you guys know Rob Folan and Folan Cellars. He does wonderful stuff with Grenache and Tempranillo. I've loved his Tempranillo for years, and so we did a little deal where he's bringing up a few tons of Tempranillo for me.
Very cool. No, Chris Durant is working.
I don't.
Assistant.
Okay.
Is that the God King Slave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott King Slave.
Yes,
That's an interesting relationship. Which one?
That's Chris and his girlfriend, Kristen Collins. I know this. It's okay, I was explaining that. And they just roast the first Syrah, right?
It's a blend?
Yeah, it's a blend. Tempranillo.
He's helping the rock, so he can
Yes, we do. Do you happen to know our Wi-Fi password?
Yes, I do. And I will tell you it.
That's a really good question.
However, it was set up, I have a disclaimer in advance. It was set up by my overly zealous IT consultant a long time ago. It has to be 28 characters. A long password so that it would be secure. 26 characters. And how Matt came up with all lowercase, Raptor _ Ridge _ is _ great _ 2008. I don't know.
Goodness.
Raptor Ridge is great.
At least it's
all
not
lowercase.
random.
Yeah. What do we got here, Scott?
All right, so these are mussels on the half shell with smoky aioli and Tabasco mignonette. And I wanted this dish to come out first because it is the lightest of the dishes and possibly the most tricky to pair with Pinot Noir. But the 2010 Shea, when I tasted it, had a really beautiful, spicy, peppery bite to it when you first drink it, which I really, really dug with the Tabasco. The smokiness of the mussels really comes out as kind of an earthy undertone to pair with the wine. But before I kind of feel about the wine and pairing, I just want to reiterate, I was talking to Scott and Annie about this. I'm not a big fan of hard and fast pairings. I think it's kind of bullshit, to be honest with you. Everybody's palates are different. And I look at it as more of a discussion. I think that if you have great wine and good food, that's really what the equation is to me. And the pairings, I could give you the reasons why I thought about this, and you might taste it and think, well, because 9 times out of 10, when we do these wine pairings, the ones that I really think are going to be the best, most people don't really like. My palate's different than everybody else's. And everybody else's palate is individual. So I look at these things more as a discussion and an interaction rather than being just didactic about it. We've worked with Scott and Annie at Park Kitchen, the Bent Bricks big brother, for quite some time. And we've done a lot of events. We've been down the Steamboat together. And, their wines are very, very well made and thought about. There's a reason why the wines are the way they are. They're not just, there's a winemaker behind them, which is a good point. There's a style to them. So they tend to go very well with our food, which tends to be a little bit acid friendly, and their wines are very food friendly. There are some wines that really, I think, are just good food wines. They're not designed to be drank on their own. Although they are delicious on their own, these wines kind of beg to have an interaction with food. So anyway, the first dish, the mussels, obviously, we've had them on the Bent Brick on and off since we opened up. It was kind of a surprise dish for us. I've had very, very poor luck selling mussels, which is too bad because I love them.
Yeah.
But this dish, created by Will Price, who's the chef at the Bent Brick, was just, they're delicious. You'll taste them and you'll see they're earthy, they're sweet, they're smoky. I like the presentation because I'm a big fan of reminding people where the food actually does come from. So I'll bring out the beets in a couple minutes and you can talk about those. But please don't just drink this with the 2010. Go ahead and drink it with the 09 as well, and prove me wrong.
Cheers.
Yes. Some Pellegrino or water was requested.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think we
Oh, and we got a rainbow outside.
Okay. Perfect. Hopefully it arches right down to where we're going to start picking them.
Yeah.
That block right there.
Leave the pot of gold there.
So, did you do any
We do one so far called Adolfo's Block. My vineyard manager, Adolfo, helped me plant 10 years ago. So it's the oldest block. It's got some age on it. And I'll do a barrel selection each year and do a state Adolfo's Block. Let me hold that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Burma mash, chilled stone. Looks like it's came right off the beach.
Yeah, it is good.
Okay, so I got the suggestion. What's the selection?
It's a smoked area.
Yep. First I thought it was like tobacco, and then I was like, so did I.
That's the newest
It's zero.
ingredient.
You're not a brand.
I'm not sure I feel like it. I love Scott. I love everything about Scott.
Yeah, he's so creative. I haven't been to this new restaurant to Ben Brick yet, but time will be short and we'll be there.
Yeah, Park Kitchen is definitely one of my favorite, and then I've been at Bedford a couple times. Always pleased.
I just met the bartender there. What's his name? Andy?
Adam.
At the Whiskey Soda Black.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that feels it.
Great bartender.
Yeah.
Thank you, darling. Of course.
Well, of course, I like what Scott said about our wines, but more importantly, it opened the concept of, you all tasted these wines in the glass, and now food's coming, and I think everything changes so much. The wine changes for the better, and I think that's the definition of a food-friendly wine.
And wine.
wine for anything?
One thing I like about Scott's cooking and his whole team is everything that comes out of his kitchen always has so much going on that it's not overwhelming. There's at least 2 or 3 notes in everything that comes out, but they're well defined. And that makes for a really enticing thing. Yeah, your mouth's
Yeah.
I was thinking you'd better charging.
So sad.
Gallows humor. I don't know, I think he's still listening. I think he would still respond.
Okay, folks, I'd like you to meet Kevin Wild, who does a lot of the work around here. Kevin's assistant winemaker after Ridge. He's been with us for a little 2 years now. Did some work with R. Stewart for a number of years. Came out to Oregon as part of Oregon Pinot Camp, where you were in Hilton Head, North Carolina, South Carolina, showing my geographic ignorance. And fell in love with Oregon and said, I'm moving here. So Kevin's been helping me make the wine for a couple of years here. Corey Schuster is another misguided engineer.
Misguided, I like that.
Showed up this year and said, you know, sits behind a desk designing trusses and doing shear force analysis isn't really what is cut out for me. I want to make wine. So Corey's thrown in with us. You're in the middle of prep for harvest. These are our red wine fermenters. They'll each end up holding about 1.5 tons of grapes. So they've all been pressure washed with a steam cleaner, and these guys are going through a chemical sanitization right now because we want to know what bugs are going in our wine. We don't want what just has been hanging out all winter long. What we do is bring the fruit in, dump it onto our shaker table where it gets every grape into 1 cluster high, and then it dumps onto a conveyor table where we'll turn every cluster over and make sure that we've got, thank you, sir. What the heck, is this music or what? So this is where we do the fine sort. The stink bugs, any rotten fruit comes out. It goes up the giraffe, as we call it, and through a destemmer. And then another thing we do that a lot of wineries don't is we have this stainless steel chute, and we'll do a 3rd sort as it comes out of the destemmer. Anything that we don't want in the fermenter, we pull it out then. So it goes into these fermenters. As I said, holds about 1.5 tons of destemmed fruit. We'll chill it. We'll line them up back to back in rows of 12 deep. And in the old days, I used to put dry ice in to chill it down. But I found that was a little too reductive. That dries out the oxygen.
Teacher?
Yes, it chills the wine, but I didn't like what it was doing. And also, if you think about, we don't really need to put more CO2 back in.
He's the reason why I started playing guitar.
A lot of people still do it, but we just try to pick the fruit cold. I do have a little unit on a cart here. If I need to chill or heat the fruit down, I can do that. But we bring it in, chill it, keep it around 45, 50 degrees for 4 or 5 days doing a cold soak. And at that point, on day 5, I'll then heat the fermenter up to around 75 degrees, and I'll inoculate it with known strains of commercial yeast. If the fermenter is started on its own through native yeast, I'll kind of evaluate it. I'll give it a sniff, see if I think it's healthy. And about 1/3 of our fermentations, I just let them go so-called wild. But we have this little tool, this stainless steel gurney with the punch down tools on it. That's a little thing that we've designed that straddles the 2 fermenters and allows you to mechanically punch down the fruit. It's driven by air pressure from the floor. There'll not be a square inch open, except there'll be 1 foot in between the rows of fermenters. And that's what that little gurney travels down. So as Andy was talking about keeping a small footprint, both environmentally and physically, we get more out of a square foot than I think any winery in Oregon. And we learned this in our sheep farm, where we were making 2,000, 2,300 cases a year in a 1,000 square foot building. It's ungodly, some unnatural acts. And so it's a little uncomfortable because we're compacted here, and it's a bit of a Rubik's Cube. But the rest of the year, we got a skating rink, so what are you going to do? Put up a basketball court. So we'll ferment until the wine is dry. That takes about 2 weeks total. I don't like to leave the wines on the skin more than about 18 days max. And at that time, we'll drain the fermented wine into these stainless steel tanks to settle, and take the rest of the grapes and press, and keep the press wine separate. And then we go to barrel so-called clean, which means the wine has had a chance to settle. All of the pulp and the dying yeasts have settled to the bottom in a day or two. And then we'll pump that into barrels, and into an array of barrels, some new, some old, different coopers, different forests. And that mix of what barrels you use is your first response to the vintage. So we'll put that array of barrels together, and I'll show you a barrel room.
So Scott, in terms of those native yeasts, are they here now, or are they all blasted out by the disinfectants and putting them in on grapes?
They're not blasted out. Yeah, people talk a lot about native yeast, but if you've inoculated commercially, or if you've done a fermentation in a facility before, there's so many yeasts everywhere that it's going to repopulate. And people have done studies of plating up what fermentations are in a vineyard or in a winery is so-called wild. And they'll find CY3079 that came from Scotland. It's all here.
Yeah.
And so that's why I like to. I've spent enough time keeping yeast separate and tasting them and forming my own impressions about what do they do, that I like to overwhelm a fermentation with a known strain of commercial yeast, because I'm a control freak. But if something's taken off healthy on itself, it's hard to overwhelm it. It's already a freight train that's moving. So you get a different complexity from a so-called indigenous fermentation. You get a little more shroominess from it, a little more funkiness from it. But if it's taken off and it's unhealthy, it's putting off something that smells like fingernail polish, ethyl acetate, you got to jump on it and overwhelm it and get it clean again. Here's the barrel. Walk this way.
This is a door. I know that's a door.
It's the door to Scotty's new office.
So we can, at this point, put the wines into the barrel and tuck them back in here. We have room. I don't normally store it 4 high. We store them 3 high. But at 3 high, we have 400 barrels. At 4 layers high, we can have over 500 barrels here. I just have it stored 5 high right now to make up some room to keep, tanks and other stuff while we're cleaning out on the floor. But the nice part about this space is you're 25 feet underground. I've got these roll-up doors so you can move in and out quickly and easily. But for most of the winter, those doors are shut. I don't have to put a single watt of energy into the outer building. Mother Nature just keeps that at whatever, ambient. And in here, it's 62 degrees. And so the wines will go through their ML fermentation in here. This is where we're checking on all those flavors and textures. Around about February or March, we'll pull all the barrels out and start putting our blends together. I think that's another different thing that we do. Not many wineries will decide their blends, blend the wine, and put it back into barrel so early. But I like things to marry up in the barrel. So it'll be there from around April through August, and in late August we've confirmed we've got all the right blends as intended, and we'll take the wine out of the barrel and put them into the bottling tanks, and then just before the next vintage, bottle most of the wine. Some of the wines stay in barrel over vintage, the reserve wines in particular, things that have a lot of structure and need more time. Don't mind giving them a little extra time here in the cellar. But some days when life is just like a bitch, what I love to do is just leave everybody behind, and I come into this room with the lights off, and I just listen to the quiet and smell the barrel room. Yeah, this is what it's all about. And you cannot videotape that smell, I'm sorry. I wish you could.
No.
Yeah, no. We use all French oak. It's 100% French oak. Several different coopers, including one that I've worked with for over a decade. He was the master cooper at Hermitage, left there a few years ago when his non-compete contract expired. He formed a partnership with a fifth-generation forester. He's the master cooper and a consummate wine salesperson. The three of them put their own money, their hearts and souls into a new project, and they're custom making barrels for us. And we'll have our first try at them this vintage when we get Atelier Centre of France barrels here. Annie and I were just there the first week of July and went to the forest where our barrel wood is being harvested. So
how cool is that, though?
Yeah, from the source.
Seriously, wow.
So hopefully it works out.